Hello, I'm Emma Sexton. I'm the founder of the Inside Out Awards. Now, the awards were created in 2013, and this year we set out on a mission that we didn't just want to celebrate these teams, but we also wanted to inform and inspire what we're calling the next generation of trailblazing in-house creative teams across the UK. So we've always been about celebrating more than just creativity, because we know there's lots of awards for that. What we're here to do is to really dig out the stories behind the work, the stories that you can all learn from and take back those learnings into your own teams. So this is why we've been really pleased and excited to launch a range of events this year. This is our fourth one this year. They're all on our website if you want to see any of the ones that you've missed. And we've really created these for those leading and working within in-house creative teams. So this year we're defining teams in kind of three areas or three buckets. So you might be an in-house creative studio, you might be an in-house creative agency, or you might be an on-site creative agency setup. So every event that we've done, we've always covered these kind of three types of teams. So today's topic is, what's your creative stack? Lots of people talk about what's your tech stack, but I was really interested to know what are people's creative stack? How are these teams set up? Every in-house team that I've ever come across has always been set up in a different way. So, and it's a question that we get asked over and over again, is like, how are other teams set up? So today's event is really all about that, being able to kind of peer over the fence to see into the other teams. And I've got three brilliant people on a panel today who are all willing to kind of share and tell you what goes on amongst their teams. So I'm going to get started, and I'm going to kick off with letting our panel just give us a little bit of a quick intro into who they are. Ashley, would you like to go first?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Ash. I've come from Colchester in Essex, and I work for Gymshark. I've been working with Gymshark for about 3 years now, just over, and I head up the campaign and creative department for the brand.
Thank you, Ashley. So Ashley's team, you define yourselves as kind of a studio, don't you? A brand studio.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. Paola, do you want to go next?
Yes, sure. So my name is Paola, and I'm the program lead for Creative X International at Facebook. So I lead up the international in-house agency at Facebook. So we do the campaign for our brand, mainly on our platforms around the world. And otherwise, initially I come from Italy, a little town near Verona. And before joining Facebook 2.5 years ago, I've been working in advertising agencies all around Europe.
Lovely, thank you so much. And you would define Creative X as an agency, wouldn't you? You've been a studio and an agency joined together, but you're very focused on being an agency over there, aren't you?
Yes, we are operating as an in-house agency, but as you said, we've been through a journey. So we started as a studio indeed.
Yeah, great, thank you. Okay, lastly, Julia.
Hi, everybody. I am head of creative ops over at Specsavers agency. I've been there since September 2019, so just before the pandemic hit and our lives kind of changed forever. I was brought in really to help the agency evolve from feeling a bit more like a creative department to running more like a full service agency. So I've been heavily involved in the restructure, and while COVID was really difficult, it did help us to move quickly and make changes that were quite difficult in the end. I grew up in Adland. I've worked at places like JWT and Leo's and VCCP most recently. And yeah, I've just moved client side and loving it and loving working for a great brand, really. So
great, thank you. I've got some questions later about that transition and comparing those two worlds, agency and in-house. But Ashley, I'd love to start with you, because we've had a couple of chats before this, because I know you're one of the judges on our awards, and you were saying that at Gymshark the team has grown like exponentially, like it's, really has been, high accelerated growth in a high accelerating growing company. So I'd kind of love to know like how it started and maybe how's it going?
Sure. Yeah, in a very short space of time, it has gone from when I first turned up just over 3 years ago, there was 8 people in our creative department, like odds and sods, very, very, very talented people. that kind of thing. And I was brought in to take that team, set the foundation and focus, work out how we could scale that department for all the crazy aspirations that this brand had at the time. And we now sit at about 70 people in the creative department. We've got aspirations to keep growing that. We'll probably have 100 plus people by the end of the year. And our department is split by 11 different teams in order for us to fulfill all the needs and all the aspirations that the rest of the brand, the rest of the business wants. So quick breakdown of the teams inside. We've got the creatives coming up with the ideas from start to finish. We've got copywriters, so the voice of our mission, the voice of Gymshark. We have designers and art workers. So what does this brand look like, and how do we batch that at scale and create all the digital assets that we use? We've got a video team, an editing team. We have producers who, in my opinion, have the hardest job because they have to take these blue sky ideas and be magicians and turn them into reality. We've got an in-house styling team, which not many brands will have, again, because we shoot product all the time, we shoot campaigns all the time, so we think it's worthwhile. Retouch, a studio team that are dedicated to shooting our digital product content for our app, our product pages. And we have a projects team, like our head chefs, that the squares with the squiggles that keep all the creatives in line and make sure they can do all the crazy stuff. So that's our 11 team department.
So, and how have you made a decision about how to set up the team and who to hire? Because, you know, not only have you had this growth really quickly, so that's hard. Like, how do you make those quick decisions? But also, you know, Gymshark is very much of a modern brand, you know, doing things in a very different way. You've got clothing, the brand, the amount of content. So how have you made those decisions? How have you been able to move so quickly and grow kind of in line with the business?
We're very lucky that we are doing quite well, and we are allowed to keep recruiting people. Like I said, from 8 to 70, there are not many businesses that are allowed to do that. So we're very lucky that we can grow the team and grow the skill set. But I think the biggest thing to help steer it was listening to the rest of the business, because we could make the prettiest pictures and the best videos out there, but if people don't want them and the community don't need them, then it's pointless. It's a waste of time. We're just doing it to fuel our egos to make cool stuff. So it's really listening to all of the departments in wider Gymshark, brand outside of brand. What do people need? Tying it into our strategy all the time. We're here to, as a company, unite the conditioning community, and how do we as a creative department help do that, and not being selfish about it. So really thinking about other people's needs, I think, is key, and fulfilling those with content.
Right, really interesting. So yeah, totally business strategy led. What does the business need? What do the marketing teams need? And then you shaping around that. That's really interesting. Thank you. Paolo, I'm going to go to you next. How's the team set up at Facebook? Can you tell us a bit about the shape of the team, and also perhaps how it's changed when you had that merger from studio agency to what it is now?
Yeah, sure. When we were called the studio, so we're definitely a studio, we were helping creating the communication around programs. So in a nutshell, we were very much design-led. So we had a lot of designer, in addition to and creative directors, to make sure that there was a supervision. In addition to them, we always had program managers. In a nutshell, program manager is a little bit like an account person, but a bit more with a strategic responsibility and involvement, and a little bit of project management, even if it's not much. And then we have producers and business affairs, who are our legal angel, making sure that whatever we do is within the rules and the laws that we have internally and externally. With the transition from studio to being in charge of campaigns for consumers, that also came a shift on talents, in addition to the name. So we rebranded as Creative Experiences in-house. We merged the studio with another team who was in charge with big global campaigns. And together we got to focus on consumer marketing, and in particular to really become really good on our own platforms. Digital is a huge, obviously, platform, and we wanted to become as good as we can. So right now, we still have program managers, producer, business affairs. Our creative team is probably the one that has been progressing slightly. So we're getting much closer to the structure of actual agency, creative agency. We have CDs, we have copywriters and art directors, we have designers, And in the US, we also have editors and some illustrators as well.
Great, thank you. And then, like Ashley, how are you making business decisions about who to hire and how to shape the team? Is that coming from the overall business? Does that come from you guys as a team?
It starts with two key things. So like I said, tying into the purpose of the business. So how does the creative department help unite the conditioning community, bring all these people together? And what do we offer as a business? So our proposition at Gymshark, we have 4 key tools or things that we can give the community. You've got our product, our digital product, our content, and any offline activation. So it was working out, okay, which one do we sit in, and how do we work with the other 3? So for us, being a creative studio, it's content, which is all the stuff that we make, and then how do we strategically help make content for the other pillars. So broken down, we worked out that we needed to make brand campaigns, product campaigns, digital product content, and real life content, and then all the other stuff, all the 365, and taking it from there. And then how do those teams within our department help make those 5 buckets that we offer? What level of person do we need? Do we need senior people to do that task? Do we need junior people? Do we need industry standard lead position? Do we need a form of management? And then filling all those gaps once we've worked out the teams, the hierarchy, and the recruitment. And then how do we work with everybody? So it's like a 4-step process, working out the teams that we need for those 5 buckets, the tiering system and the type of skill set that we need, recruiting those people, and then building an operational plan for the 4 key steps that we go through really.
Wow, you really do have a process for that. Paola, how does that compare with Facebook? Do you have a process in the way that Ashley does for making those decisions? What drives those?
Yes, we do. One option we keep open is, in any case, to work with some agencies in some cases, because I don't know, usually the marketing ambition is much bigger than the resources we have. So, and in some cases also there are some specific expertise for which it will take too long, and it would take too much of an investment to create a new specific department or team. We also keep open the opportunity to work with agency. And in fairness, they already do a lot of our traditional TV and print campaign. So I'm saying that because whenever there is, first when we define the plan for the year, so whenever there's something new coming up, there is a discussion about, does it make sense to keep it in-house? Do we have the expertise, the talent, the time, and the resources to do that? Or should we get the help of an external agency? If we decide that it is in-house, then yes, there is I'm part of the discussion about, okay, what kind of talent, what kind of seniority we need to bring in to make sure that we can get the best creative work out.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Julia, so whenever I ask people, who is the in-house team that is really doing interesting things that you want to know more about, Specsavers is always it's probably the one that's had the most PR and talked about, along with say, BBC Creative and For Creative. So I know that our creative community will really like an insight into Specsavers and how you're set up over there.
So like I mentioned earlier, we've gone from operating a bit like a creative department to becoming that full service agency. And that model includes, and is really driven by brand guardianship. So we originate the ideas with the client. We work on the strategy with them. We're really, really close. So our departmental structure, we've got strategy, we've got creative, we've got design, we've got production studio, creative production or integrated production, project management, whatever you call it. And we've got, design that what we did recently, which I'm sure lots of people have done, is think about how we can make everything one speed, because we did have stuff, or our department split between digital and then everything else. So what we did was we've merged everything, so there isn't a digital department anymore. Design is integrated design. You've got the same people or various people working together to create to create artwork that really works through the line. So we're thinking through the line with all of our work. Almost every single brief that comes in will be the whole suite of media that we need to develop, except sometimes maybe not TV, just because we've got our owned media channels, like, you know, everybody else on the call, and that just means lots of content to be pushing all the time. But you know, we do create almost everything in-house. We also lean on partners to fill the gaps, you know, where we don't feel like we've got that expertise. You know, it's all about having that idea thing, and who do you need to make that happen, and pulling on, you know, people that we know, talent out there, and just getting the best people in to do the job. Filling those gaps, we've got places like PR and social, so we work with partners for that. And I guess, you know, if you think about the main difference between agency, you know, ad land agency versus specs agency, there's not that much in it other than our proximity to the client. You know, we're not just close to the client, we are the client. We're working for ourselves. We've got skin in the game. You know, there's a huge sense of pride around the brand and the work that we do, and it really shows in how we work together and how we bring each other along. So I think yeah, that's sort of how we're set up in a kind of traditional agency model, with a slightly different way of working with client, I guess.
Yeah, because that was going to be one of my questions. You've got considerable background in agencies, you know, the top advertising agencies, and now you've gone in-house. So one of my questions was going to be around, you know, you noticing those differences, but also I think that the thing that you get the most when you hear about in-house teams is that they're only working on a single brand. Do you find that that's a challenge with the team staying, you know, the pushback is often, you know, we've got to keep our team creative and fresh, and they get bored and tired on the brand. You know, is that a challenge for somebody like Specsavers?
I think it's interesting, actually, because we're looking at what Specsavers is, what we say about ourselves at the moment, how we talk to our consumers. So actually, we're looking at different ways of speaking to people in different areas. And actually, I think it's always a challenge when you're kind of sat in your bubble. What we're doing a lot of is bringing the outside in, making sure that we're part of the community. I think being an in-house agency, what I've found different is that when you're in an ad agency in London, you're part of all of the ad agency community. You're in that conversation, people are talking about it. And it's since almost the 2 years I've been at Specsavers, I think that's shifted massively. I think in-house agencies are becoming a part of that conversation. Like you said, you know, for creative, BBC Creative are very involved. And I think that's doing a really good job for people in-house to feel a part of that community. Because the reality is, when you're working in an agency, you will get, you know, not stuck, but you will work on the same brand for almost a couple of years. People do end up working on the same rhythm of work, you know, because they get to know the brand, and because they can get to the work quicker. So that's just my view on that. I'm sure there are other views on it.
Yeah, I was going to ask Ashley. I mean, obviously Gymshark is quite a, you know, oh God, I daren't use the word cool because it just makes me sound ancient, but like, you know, you're a brand of the moment. How are you finding keeping your team fresh and excited about what Gymshark are doing?
It was like two things, isn't it? It's like keeping them fresh and excited with their ideas and their job day to day, as well as what the brand's up to. I think in terms of what the brand's up to, that's the easy part, because the aspirations are through the roof. So everyone's excited for that. Got an incredible office now that people come back into it. So the motivation's there. But when it comes to the creative ideas, it's been really difficult over the pandemic. I'm sure a lot of teams have felt the same. When you're inside your bedroom or your kitchen, or if you're lucky enough to have an office at home, trying to come up with the next blue sky idea, it's really difficult for a lot of the guys. So we've tried to do things similar to this ourselves in-house. We've called them Spark sessions, where we've got great creative directors, design directors, people that have been there, done that, and get them to come in and present to us. Some crazy people like Mr. Bingo, who does things very differently, just to come in and freshen up the thoughts and ideas of the team. And that seems to be a bit of a turning point for us to get everyone motivated again. So that's really helped.
Yeah, thank you. Some really good tips there. So I want to come on to the kind of the creative process. Now, I don't know if people will agree with me, but I think over the years that I've been involved with delivering creative projects, I feel like there's sort of three parts. There's the early creative concept parts that needs the maximum amount of thinking and creativity. There's sort of the middle bit where you kind of, sort of the design stage where you kind of know what you're doing. There's less unknowns, but still some things to fathom out. And then there's the execution. And another thing that we get time and time again from in-house teams is, the business finds it really easy to use them for the second two, a bit of the design and the execution. But for them to, pull themselves up the food chain to be, given the confidence to let loose with the creative always seems to be a battle. Like they always seem to be competing with external agencies or being worked around. So I'm interested to know from the three of you, are you doing that kind of end to end? And how much does the business trust you to deliver that high level creative? And how have you got yourself in a position to be trusted with that? Paola, I'm going to go to you first. So there's a few questions in one there.
Yeah, it's a good one. I'll start with the last one because I feel like we've both been on a journey with the marketing team in those 2 years, very, very honestly, because yes, I feel like everyone knows about the power of external creative agencies. So we had to, I feel like I had to bring marketing to the journey to show that we're also very much capable and we have the talent that are actually coming from most of those creative agencies to do incredible work. And it's something I believe to consider when starting in our in-house team is bringing those marketers who have been working with agency for 10, 15 years to the journey to show that it's feasible and they can trust and they can get incredible work. We as Creative X, I would say sometimes we do and sometimes we work with agencies as well. So the big ideas for global campaigns tend to be a joint venture between Creative X and a traditional agency like Drugger 5, Wyden and Kennedy, BBDO. So that that big idea need to work on all channels and ideally around the world. So because of that, it can be a joint venture. And then other stuff, in some other cases, we do the ideation from the beginning. So from the moment we get the brief, actually we collaborate with the brief because we are part of the same team, to the delivery, we do it all. In that sense, I feel quite lucky that the journey has been successful to prove that we can do it. And so we have that two options open and we're doing that.
Great, thank you. What's it like at Specsavers, Julia? I feel like you guys do the entire suite end to end.
Yeah, I mean, the agency at Specsavers has been around since the 80s, so I think we've been doing it that way for a long time. It's kind of ingrained in the way that we work, and really similar to what Paola was saying, we're involved in that co-creation of the brief to us. We look at that, we translate that for the creative department, and then push it through the system. I think what we've been doing recently is really trying to involve the marketing team more in co-creating that. They want to get close. Our timings aren't brilliant, and I think with the nature of everything moving in our environment, making it really difficult to plan ahead, them being involved up front and thinking about what's going to happen next has been helpful. So we have check-ins with them that aren't formal presentations, and then we'll go to a formal presentation. So and I think it's also keeping the process flexible, like keeping it firm but flexible, so that you can involve people when they need to be involved, but also say, actually, we need this time back. I guess the other thing in terms of creating that environment where we can have that, you've got to have trust, it's got to be open, and it's got to be transparent. And I think if we're coming up against something or the client's got a problem, it's getting away from like a finger pointing sort of culture to a more collaborative culture where people understand what the challenges are and how we overcome them together. And that, there's been a huge program over the last year to make sure that we are co-creating together, that we understand the challenges that we're both dealing with. And it's brought the team a lot closer together and helped the work become better. So that's what.
Nice. So collaboration is key. That's a good insight. So I suppose we can't really talk about a creative stack without actually talking about the tech stack. It's another question that people always ask. People are always interested in the kind of the tools and the technology that you favor to deliver those creative concepts or your campaigns and your projects, and why you selected those. So I wonder if you could just give us kind of a top line. What are your day-to-day tools? Ashley, I'll start with you.
This was a question where I was almost trying to think of some extra things to add in. It's quite simple for us. We don't really use that much technology when it comes to delivering our ideas or all the way to execution. Obviously, there's a lot after that, but in our process, the key thing for us is that collaboration. We've gone from a whole company the size of less than 100 people when I turned up to now close to 1,000. So that communication and collaboration is the key to making sure you've got the right concept, ideas and assets at the end. So we use a platform called Notion, which is our favorite thing in the world. It's essentially a fancy to-do list, but in terms of collaborating, it is the king and queen for us. It allows, even from the internal creative development stage with the producers, the creatives, the designers, whoever, if you're not physically together, you can collaborate live on that platform. So that's our new favorite tool, apart from the obvious Keynote and that kind of thing in terms of actually delivering. But yeah, Notion is our go-to internally.
Sounds interesting. Sounds good, actually. I've not explored Notion that much, so I'm going to check that out. Paola, what about you? What are you using over there? Is it all like Facebook created by their developers, custom tech?
Kind of, not completely custom tech, but we do use one of our products very much. We live on pretty much Workplace, and in fairness, I use Workplace even in the past. Whenever you have global teams, it's really helpful because it's one place where it's like you have I know it's gonna sound weird, but it's a professional in-house professional Facebook. So any announcement for a lot of people, it's easy. You post it, and then everyone who is part of that group can see directly to the instant messaging chat. So, and linked to that, there is a video call so that you can have with teams, with individual. So you're pretty much out of work without Workplace at Facebook, I would say. And as Ashley was mentioning, anything that allowed to collaborate at the same time on documents and presentation, we also use it daily.
Nice, thank you. And Julia, what's going on at Specsavers? Have you, and I guess, has any of your technology changed during the pandemic? What you were using before and what you're using now?
Well, when I joined Specsavers, we were implementing a project management software. They've been trying, the team had been trying to implement it for about 2 years and just unable to implement it for lots of reasons. And I came in, and that was one of my directives, is kind of make this thing happen. So that's what we did. We've implemented Workfront, and I think if I was going to give anybody advice for implementing software, it's a pretty hefty, cavernous project management tool that is very, very customizable. And I think when we started to put in where the team probably went wrong was looking at everything it could do and trying to do it all before just getting it in and figuring out what people want. I guess, for me, when I came in, it was very much about having that tool support our process rather than guide our process. And I guess we have implemented it now. Is it perfect? I don't think there's any program out there that is perfect for everybody. It's about taking the best things and making sure that it doesn't become a crutch for what you want to achieve and doesn't replace human interaction and moving things on between people. And I think that's sort of, when you're working in a creative environment, you need to talk, you need to move things along, you need to have people interacting and not just click something in a system and expect people to understand exactly what needs to be done. So that's very much the way that we've implemented it, I guess. And the same as Paola and Ash, really, any collaborative tool, Google Docs, PowerPoint online, just that's probably like, keep it simple, just the easiest things to get people to work together and save time. So anything collaborative, I'm a really big fan of.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been really interesting, isn't it? How everything's had to shift over this past year, but I think it's made us a bit more flexible and agile, isn't it? So I want to go on to my next question now, which is, again, another question that comes up a lot, especially in our monthly breakfast club that we host for in-house leaders. And our last session, somebody came up with this great term, and their challenge was, how do I stop my team being treated like an all-you-can-eat buffet? And I just thought that was such a lovely saying, but also a sentiment that rings true of most in-house teams, which is, you have a company and you have lots of internal clients, and they all want everything, and they want everything yesterday. So I was interested to know, have you solved that? Is there anything that you've implemented? Is that a challenge for you? And how do you manage that? Ash, I'm imagining with the scaling that Gymshark are doing, are your team feeling like a bit of an all-you-can-eat buffet over there?
This is one of the few things where the pandemic has actually helped, because you can't just run over to the editing team and go, can you quickly do me an asset for social, please? And hand over a bit of paper on the sly. You have to formally put in a request now. Yeah, it definitely has been the case. I think having not gatekeepers, but key people in charge of certain teams and processes, and everyone really understanding the process and why we have it. And it's not a nemesis, but it will help you get to where you need to get to quicker. Explaining that and taking the time to explain that to all the different channels and departments and marketing teams is really important. Then they understand the scale of stuff that teams need to create, and why we can't do everything yesterday for everyone. When you a lot of the teams, the editing team, for example, are blocked up for 3 months. That's a long time if people need things quickly. So it's just, again, sharing those plans, sharing those how we're scheduling everything, and bringing people inside to the team to really understand how it all works, and then they can appreciate it, rather than just saying no and not really explaining yourself. I think bring them inside, because we're all in the same building, we're all trying to do the same thing, part of the same brand. So just communication is so important.
And do you do that as a sort of like a regular induction with people internally? Like, how do you share that inner workings? Is it, do you try and hit lots of people off at once, or do you do that one at a time when people come to you?
We're lucky to have a good onboarding program. So every time lots of new people turn up every week, they go through a similar process of meeting the teams, meeting the project management team, and understanding the process, as well as all the other things you need to understand when you start a new place of work. So I think if you get given it at the start, when you begin somewhere new, then it that's all you know. So then you're used to it. It's harder changing people's mindsets when you change a process who've been here for X years, and you're like, oh, but I'm used to this. I'm used to this bit of software. I don't want to change that. I know how this works. I've got to learn something new now. So it's hitting people when they come in with, this is how we do it here, and this is why, that's the biggest win.
Yeah, nice. It's managing expectations, isn't it? Which is like a common thing. But setting that tone right at the beginning, and then I guess it's then having the boundaries to try and keep your word, then, isn't it? So that's super interesting. Paola, how is it over there at Facebook? Are you having a constant challenge with resourcing? Have you kind of got a process in place to manage those requests?
Yeah, the ambition is way bigger than the resource. What makes it a little bit more challenging is that we're working across the different apps. So sometimes sometimes you have to choose, which make it really hard and uncomfortable to make. I would say the two key words, and that's also coming from my boss, is like brutal prioritization. It's a thing that has been there since the moment I arrived, and is still here. Combined, with constant communication, trying also to talk about short-term, mid-term, long-term, and say, guys, we need to start before so we have more time, and bringing the right people throughout that journey, because it's not feasible to do everything that is being requested. So it is one of the reasons why I'm probably at Facebook. I would say that's what my job is about defining, okay, yes, we should focus on this one. It makes sense. It will bring impact. Now we can't do this. Okay, can someone else do it, or can we move it? And having those discussions every day, really.
Yeah, so prioritizing the work. And then is that you having to decide what you think is the business priority then, is it? Or is it almost like, what's a tier 1, a tier 2, a tier 3?
We started with having tiers, and we're trying to apply that at least when we do the yearly plan. In the end, it needs to be a discussion between myself and the marketing lead, actually the international marketing directors, because each country is going to have their own priority, each team is going to have their own priority, each app is going to have its own priority. The decision needs to be made at a level with someone who is supervising all of that, so that it can be right for the business overall.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, interesting. It's a constant challenge. Julia, how is it over at Specsavers? Have you guys cracked it over there? Is anything you're implementing to help with that challenge?
It's, I mean, it especially at the moment, coming out of lockdown, everybody wants to produce. We are, I think, what's been mentioned by Paula and Ash, transparency and relationships are key to making sure that we're doing the right work and we understand which work we should be focusing on. For us, I think what we've done is, similarly is, with the marketing team, you've got different teams in charge of different bits, and they have their parts of the business that they're trying to drive, and to them, that's the most important piece of work on the table, as it should be, absolutely. But at the end of the day, who's that person who's knitting it all together and deciding whether that's an important driver for the business and making that decision? So I think our real struggle is that we're very busy, and everybody across all of group marketing is very busy. So getting that time and getting people to engage with what's coming in and make those decisions is sometimes a challenge. We've instigated sort of bi-weekly meetings with the marketing team where all the leads of the marketing and the agency come together. We review the program of work and really just give them an opportunity to talk about that work that their teams are putting through, because they don't have that time to sit down and review it. And that's been hugely beneficial in terms of us really nutting out, well, okay, so we can move that off, and it actually helps them have the conversations about what they're thinking in the future. Does that actually add up? We're in a phase right now where everything is quite reactive. So we're trying to get back to planning and forecasting and trying to encourage the team to do that. We, after the pandemic, we put in a client partnership team, which is basically an account management team. We didn't have that before, and they help to basically pull the stakeholders together and make sense of the job. I'm in a lot of those meetings going, does that connect with that one? Should that be happening at this time? Have you guys spoken to each other? And just trying to help make those connections. So yeah, that it is a daily discussion, but it feels like that's just the norm. We had those meetings in agencies, right? It's not that different. It's just that's the way it is, and it's a constant balancing act.
Yes, and that communication seems to be clear, isn't it? Because you're right. If you can get more comms and understanding about, perhaps what is the bigger picture driving that piece of work, you can perhaps understand, where your wiggle room is, what can shift. And then also it seems like connecting those dots is really important as well, so that there's not too much siloed work coming into the studio, that the whole business knows what's kind of going on and stuff. So that's really good. Thank you. Okay, brings me on to my next question now, which is about you guys. And all of you have had extensive careers not in-house, and I do believe that all of you, this is kind of your first role in-house. I'm interested to know what attracted you to go in-house. There's obviously a bit more of a growing trend around it now. I still think talent attraction is a bit of a challenge sometimes for in-house teams. So I was just interested in your personal motivations for joining the companies that you are and starting an in-house career. Paula, perhaps we can go with you first.
Yes, so personally, I've always been the kind of person who need to feel like I'm learning something new and different, and that's where I tend to, in the past, change a job or agency or even country every few years, because I need that. So when this opportunity came through. As I said, I never been an in-house or a marketing side. So I was absolutely up for it, because yes, it might be, I expect it to be some stuff being similar, but obviously some stuff not being there. And I was absolutely definitely keen, after being trying different kind of industry, different kind of agencies, small, big, different kind of cities. I was really keen on this one.
So was it the brand that attracted you more? So was the fact that you were in-house kind of almost slightly less important? It was more the brand, or was it both aspects of your career?
It was both. Just before this one, I was working at RGA for Google, and but it was a bit short, and the tech industry was as an account is not something, it's definitely something that can have a huge potential creatively. So I wanted definitely to stay working with a tech kind of account. And then, yes, the in-house, the curiosity how it is on moving on the dark side and understanding how it works, what it is. Even if one day I might want to go back on agency side, but at least I know how it works on the client side.
Yeah. Do you think if you went back agency side, this experience in-house would make you better working in agencies?
100%. I feel like in the past it was a bit maybe naive, but I appreciate much more what marketing has to do in-house to get a great idea go through, how much discussions and collaboration they have to pull together for those ideas to come to life, which I don't think I appreciated before. So I'm really at least grateful that I learned that side.
Yeah, it's a different world, isn't it? Ashley, what about you? What attracted you? Obviously, let's not include the free food you get at Gymshark, the free, I'm sure, sportswear, the nice gym, the outside garden that we saw before the call. What attracted you to going in-house?
Yeah, it's nothing to do with all that. That definitely helps. I wanted to be at a place, a brand that I fall in love with, and that I want to shout about, and my values match the brand's values, and all I care about is making that brand better, not just a place of work. And I think I've found that with Gymshark. Then it doesn't become a job. I think we spend as a brand team all of our time trying to improve people's lives, and we forget a lot of the time that we're selling leggings and go, oh, okay, yeah, that is what we do. We sell leggings, but we're focused on the brand side and trying to change people's lives, give them the tools to be better every single day. And I think that's why, yeah, the in-house brand side is definitely the one for me, because then I can utilize myself fully with that.
Yeah, so you feel like actually this might not be your first, I mean, obviously if the Gymshark boss is watching, you're obviously going to stay there till you retire, but are you feeling like, and the in-house experience is something that you're like, actually, I'm excited about being brand side in this way and the impact that I can have. So in-house is an exciting spot for you.
100%. You can fully, you spend your whole life, your 8 hours and plus of your day embedding yourself in what the community want, what you need to do to fulfill those needs, and you really feel like you can give your all. Maybe if it was the other side, maybe I wouldn't feel like that. Maybe I feel like I'm just ticking a few boxes and doing what I need to do and then working on the next project. So I can't, it's all or nothing for me, basically.
Yeah, it makes sense. You have that total focus, right, on that brand to really get under the skin of that in a way that you probably can't agency side if you're across things. Julie, what about you? You've had a lot of time in the big agencies. Obviously I can imagine Specsavers was probably a bit of a brand pull, but what kind of made you decide to go in-house?
I'd actually been looking to go in-house for quite a while. When I was in my last few years of ECP, it was sort of about just finding the right fit for what I wanted to do. I think agencies are incredible places. They do amazing work, but it is a bit, moving from one project to the next. You aren't really you're part of the growth of the agency, I guess, but you're not part of the growth of a brand, and you don't feel that impact and that benefit when you're really helping people. I mean, Specsavers does great things for great people. It's like Gymshark. Yeah, we make glasses, but we're actually helping people see their families, helping them hear their grandkids. And you just think, I'm a part of that, and I'm building on the growth of a brand that supports the people around me that I can really get behind. So, also working client side, I think when you're working in an agency, I felt like if I moved to another agency, I would be doing the same type of job. just somewhere else, you know, it would be slightly different, but generally that would be it. I think in Specsavers, there's a huge opportunity to get involved in places I would have never thought of getting involved in before, that at the moment agencies can't really offer. And, you know, I can grow in the agency, but I can also grow within the marketing team and within the business. So I think the opportunity and that ceiling just seems a little bit higher now. And there's something more to strive for. And like Paula said, I'm also the kind of person who needs to be learning. I need to be challenged and doing new things and totally out of my comfort zone all the time. So I feel that way a lot of days when we're talking about people with eye conditions and I'm learning about stuff like that and innovation around it. So yeah, for me, it was definitely the right thing. And who knows, maybe one day I'll be back in an agency. But for now, I'm really happy.
Yeah, that's so interesting because, you know, when I started the awards over 8 years ago, so it'll be our 9th year, you know, I have this same excitement of in-house, and, you know, there wasn't always that excitement. And, you know, my early career, I actually, you know, started a external agency, but in a business, because I didn't want an in-house team on my career. So it's really wonderful to hear all three of you really excited about it. You feel like it's a career progression. That just shows me how much things have changed, and that's really awesome. I've had such an amazing insight from all of you today into your teams. Thank you for being so generous and open in sharing with us. As I wrap up the session, I always like to finish these events by just getting a little bit of insight or wisdom. You know, we've got lots of different people on these calls, you know, watching at different points in their career. So I'd love if you could just all share with us, just like, what's your one piece of advice from your in-house experience that you can share with other people who are working in-house to help them with their work or their career? Paula, I'll go with you first.
I think I have two, so I'm debating. I'm gonna just give both. Okay.
Be generous, yeah.
I think a great opportunity for in-house teams or agency or studio is in proactiveness, because we are close, and yeah, that's why I consider that a lot. Also, as you said, to keep it fresh and keep it interesting. So my tip, one of my advice, I would consider the power of proactiveness, because you're closer, so you have more context, which means that you have much more opportunity for that proactivity to be successful. And second, it's an amazing chance to do something a little bit different. So whatever, I mean, don't go for the default choice. Yes, we all have a stronger, all of us come from advertising. Well, Julia came mainly from advertising agencies. And so obviously we know how some solution can come together, but because it's in-house, there is a chance of actually rethinking, stopping for a second, say, wait, was that really the best way to do it, or is there another way?
Lovely, thank you so much. Ash, what's yours? What's your insight and wisdom?
The pressure. Slightly similar. It would be you're all working for the same brand, which is great. You all care. You all trying to hit the same aspirations. So trust people in marketing teams to tell you the what. Don't spend the time arguing over the what. If a team that's data-led tells you they need a 6-second video, don't spend your time arguing trying to make a 2-minute film that won't work on that channel. Spend your time focusing on the how, and impress that team, that channel, and the community with the how you're going to bring that bit of content to life. Don't worry about the what. Let the trusted team tell you that.
Interesting. That is very interesting. I'd love a discussion on that, because I always feel like teams should challenge and understand like the why. But that's a good advice, good discussion point. Thanks, Ash. Julia.
I think my advice, it really expanding on what Paula said. I think when I came to Specsavers, when I came from VCCP, it had such a strong culture and such a great way of doing things that I really came in and thought that's the perfect way. And I guess my only advice is don't try and recreate the agency culture that you've come from. Take the best bits of what you've learned and the best bits from where you are and try and co-create something new. That is hugely rewarding and exciting, and it means that, you know, I think it's exciting to hear what other people are doing too. How have you done it? What works for you? Because what works for somebody else isn't necessarily going to work for the environment that you're in, because we're all doing things differently.
Lovely. Well, look, thank you all for your time today and for sharing all your insights. To everybody who's attended on the session today, thank you. We will be recording this and sharing it shortly. All the details of our awards and our events are on the insideoutawards.com. Closing date for entries is the 14th of July. So do check it out, and we hope to see an entry, and we hope to see you at an event soon. Thanks, everybody.